Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jack, and I specialize in peeling back the layers of reality to reveal the hidden, the unexplained, and often the truly chilling. And if you're looking for ordinary, you're in the wrong place. My mission is to unearth the deepest, most unsettling mysteries that lurk just beneath the surface of our world, the ones very few people ever discover. Today we're diving headfirst into a story so strange, so bizarre, it might just redefine what you think is possible. Prepare yourselves. This one, it might just stay with you long after the video ends. Okay, everyone. Find a moment to think about mail, about post offices, those hubs where messages from the past, the present, and the future, in the sense of anticipation, converge. A letter is a physical link across time and distance, carrying words from one person to another. It follows a simple, predictable path. But what if that path was broken? What if time itself became just another address? We're talking about the letters that arrived 30 years late. A postal time rift, and the terrifying truth about messages sent from a past that might not have been Japan. A country renowned for its efficiency, its technology, its blend of ancient tradition and modern innovation. Its postal service is one of the most reliable in the world, mail delivered promptly, tracked meticulously, which made the anomaly all the more shocking. It happened without warning at a specific post office in a medium-sized Japanese city. On an otherwise normal day, an unprecedented surge in mail delivery occurred. Not just a few extra bags, but box after box, hundreds of letters, arriving as if from a forgotten warehouse or an unearthed time capsule. But these weren't historical artifacts. They were live mail, and their postmarks were from the past. The letters, hundreds of them, bore genuine, verifiable Japanese postmarks, all dated from the 1980s. Specifically, a significant number were postmarked with dates in 1984. These letters, over 40 years late, relative to 2024-2025, had suddenly, inexplicably, entered the modern postal stream. This was clearly a postal time rift. Initial confusion at the post office quickly turned to alarm as staff attempted to process the mail. The letters were addressed to people who had lived in the area in the 1980s, many of whom had since moved away, were now elderly, or were deceased. Tracing the senders proved equally disturbing. Many of the return addresses belonged to people who were also now dead, missing, or had completely disappeared from records after the mid-1980s. These were communications from the past, addressed to the present, sent by people who no longer existed in the conventional sense. The authorities were notified, and the anomaly was quickly placed under a veil of extreme secrecy. Researchers from various fields, historians specializing in the 1980s, physicists theorizing about temporal mechanics, anomaly investigators, Dr. Anya Sharma, studying the human impact, Ben Carter, analyzing the letters as data, Professor Dmitry Volkov, researching historical context, Dr. Elias Thorne, examining the physics of the phenomenon, were brought in. The letters were secured, cataloged, and subjected to intense forensic analysis. Material analysis was crucial. Dr. Lena Petrova's team examined the paper, the ink, the stamps, the glue used to seal the envelopes. The findings were consistent and baffling. The materials were authentic. The paper stock, the chemical composition of the ink, the specific printings and adhesives of the stamps, all precisely matched materials used in Japan in 1984. There was no sign of modern forgery or aging techniques. The letters were physically, undeniably, from 1984. The process of analyzing the content of the letters was emotionally harrowing. These were personal messages, written decades ago, intended for a reality that was now the distant past. Letters from parents to children, lovers to lovers, friends to friends, filled with the everyday concerns, hopes, and dreams of 1984. Messages about work, school, family events, pop culture references of the time, arriving in a vastly changed world. For the few recipients who could be located and were still alive, receiving a letter from a parent or spouse who had died years ago was an experience of profound grief and shock, reopening old wounds and creating a horrifying connection to the past. This was the emotional paranormal made manifest. Among the thousands of personal messages, a chilling theme emerged in some of the letters from those who were now deceased or missing. Subtle hints of awareness that seemed impossible for the time. They were written. A parent writing to their child, expressing love and hopes for the future, including a line that stood out. "My dear child," the letter read, postmarked 1984. "When you read this, I will be gone. But I still know you are living happily." Knowledge of a future the sender shouldn't have possessed. A temporal paradox embedded in the message content. Ben Carter meticulously cataloged every letter, noting sender and recipient names and addresses, postmarks, and significant phrases or themes. He looked for patterns. Did they come from a specific street, a specific mailbox? Were the senders or recipients connected beyond living in the same area? Nothing obvious emerged from the addresses or content as a whole that explained the sudden mass arrival. Then, Ben noticed something deeply unsettling while cross-referencing sender names against current databases. One letter's sender address and name were familiar. It was addressed from a person who, according to modern records, was currently alive, living in Japan, perhaps even in the same area where the letters arrived. Researchers verified the identity. The terrifying twist unfolded when researchers located this living person and presented them with the letter bearing their name, address from 1984, and the authentic 1984 postmark. The person was baffled, then visibly shaken, even horrified. They confirmed it was their name, their correct address from 1984. Forensic handwriting analysis confirmed the writing on the envelope, and the letter within was unequivocally their handwriting. But they had absolutely no memory, no recollection whatsoever of writing or sending that letter. They did not write it. The letter was physically authentic, from 1984, in their own hand, but they did not perform the action of writing or sending it. The twist. Among the hundreds of letters postmarked from the 1980s that arrived decades late at a post office in Japan, one letter is confirmed to be written in the hand of a person currently alive who has no memory of writing or sending it, proving the anomaly is not just a passive temporal delivery mechanism, but an active agent capable of creating physical objects from the past using the identities and likenesses of living individuals without their conscious action. The implication was staggering and terrifying. The time rift, or whatever entity or process was causing the anomaly, was not just a passive delivery mechanism for lost mail from the past. It was an active agent, capable of creating physical objects, letters, mimicking identity and handwriting with perfect authenticity, and inserting them into the postal stream. This meant the anomaly could access not just historical reality, dead people, past events, authentic materials, but also current identities, perhaps drawing on information from living people, or pulling from alternate timelines or potential realities where these letters were written. The letter from the living person was a horrifying violation of their identity and agency. Their name, their handwriting, their past address were used to create a physical object dated from the past, entirely outside of their control or knowledge. It was as if a piece of their identity had been taken and used by the anomaly. The source of the future knowledge and messages from the dead gained a terrifying explanation. If the anomaly could create letters, It might also be injecting this knowledge into the text, drawing it from timelines where that future occurred, or possessing its own access to future information. What else could this anomaly create? If it could create authentic letters in someone's hand, could it create other objects from the past? Could it manifest things from potential timelines? The purpose? Why send these letters, reopening old wounds and delivering impossible knowledge? Why now? Why include a letter from a living person who didn't write it? A deliberate act of confusion or violation? Is it random? Is it a message? From whom? To whom? A test of reality? A disruption? An attempt to influence the present using a manipulated past? The entity. What is the anomaly? A natural postal time rift gone wild, a sentient entity orchestrating the mail delivery, one tied to time, communication, fate, information, or perhaps identity itself. The time, the archive, the unknowing, the lost, the voice, the web, the stranger, violation of identity, the burden. The Magnus Archive's horror was deeply temporal, emotional, and psychological. Letters from the past, messages with future knowledge, temporal paradoxes that challenge our understanding of time and reality. The time, the archive, the profound, emotional impact of receiving messages from dead loved ones. Unresolved grief magnified by impossible communication. The existential dread of future knowledge in past messages, and the horrifying violation of identity in the living person's letter. This strikes at the core of human experience. The lost, the burden, the mind's eye, the stranger, violation of self. The unknowing mechanism and purpose remain elusive. How did they travel? Who created them? Why now? What's the purpose of the living person's letter? What does the anomaly want? The unknowing. The post office as a manifestation of a broken archive, spitting out lost records from the past in a chaotic, terrifying way. The archive. The written messages as chilling voices from the past, communicating from beyond death or disappearance. The voice. The lost. A letter in your own handwriting, with your name, but you never wrote it. A profound violation of self and agency. The stranger, the identity, self. The network of connections between senders, recipients, past and present, manipulated by the anomaly, like threads in a cosmic web, the web. The postal time rift was orchestrated by an unknowing entity. Lost communication became emotional paranormal and a violation of identity. The researchers, Dr. Sharma, Ben Carter, Dr. Thorne, Professor Volkov, Dr. Petrova, the living sender, and the clandestine team, are left with the horrifying reality of a phenomenon that transcends mere time travel, one capable of creating history, using identities, and delivering messages that blur the lines between what was, what is, and what could have been. The investigation continues under intense secrecy. They are intensely monitoring the post office and the surrounding area for any further anomalies. Analysis of the letters continues. Are there any other patterns, any unusual addresses, any hidden messages perhaps encoded within the text, or even the layout of the handwriting? More research into the senders and recipients, any common links beyond living in the area in the 1980s. Research into the nature of the time rift. Was it a one-time event? Will more letters arrive? Will they be from a different time period? The terrifying debate about delivering the letters. Is it ethical to deliver messages from the dead? Does it put recipients in danger? What happens if they don't deliver them? What happens if they try to send a letter into the rift, writing? A new letter, dating it 1984, putting it in a mailbox in the area, hoping it gets caught in the anomaly. The fear that the anomaly is intelligent, responding to investigation, and its ability to create objects out-use identities, means its power is far greater and more terrifying than initially imagined. The letters that arrived 30 years late are real. Hundreds of letters postmarked from the 1980s, specifically 1984, unexpectedly arrived at a post office in Japan, sent by people now dead or missing, bearing personal messages and uncanny future knowledge, authenticated by material analysis. The twist reveals that one letter is from a living person who has no memory of writing it, despite matching handwriting and identity, proving the anomaly is an active agent capable of creating letters and using identities from the past. The Magnus. Archives horror remains a chilling undercurrent, amplified by the tangible connection to the past, the emotional weight, and the profound violation of identity. The pervasive sense of dread that comes with knowing that letters from the dead can arrive, bearing impossible knowledge, and that the anomaly can create objects and use your identity without your consent. What is this anomaly? Why does it send these letters? What does it want? Sleep well. And next time you check your mailbox or receive a letter, remember the post office in Japan. Remember the 1984 postmarks. Remember the hundreds of letters. Remember the dead senders. Remember the emotional messages. Remember the future knowledge. Remember the material analysis. Remember the living sender. Remember the handwriting. Remember they never wrote it. Because the letters that arrived 30 years late are a terrifying secret, and their unexpected arrival is a chilling invitation to consider the possibility that the past is not just history, it's mail, and sometimes it delivers something that was never sent. What happens if you receive a letter from yourself, from the past, that you didn't write? What happens if the letter asks you to do something? This story was just a glimpse into the strange realities I explore. There are countless other mysteries out there waiting to be revealed, and I'm dedicated to finding them. But with the kind of topics we cover, sometimes you just can't predict what the future holds. So, to guarantee you're always in the loop, to make sure you catch every unsettling discovery I bring to you, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell. Don't risk missing out. You might not get another chance.